celebrating the power of possibility. Pilot Flying J and Hallerin Hilton Hill present Anything is Possible.
My name is Hallerin Hilton Hill, and this is Anything is Possible. Now, you may know me, you may not know me, but I am so happy to be with you right now and to tell you my story and to tell you about Anything is Possible. So, this television show has been on the air for a long time, but how did I get here? How did we get here? I moved back to Knoxville 30 years ago. And when I moved back to Knoxville, it was not under ideal circumstances. So I had been living in the United States Virgin Islands. I was the general manager of a radio station, if you can imagine, in the U.S. Virgin Islands. The funny thing was, when we landed in the Virgin Islands, the first thing that my wife said was, "Are there any hurricanes?" And I remember we were in this open-air taxi on the way to our condo on the beach. And the taxi driver looked up and he said, "Oh no, dearie, you have nothing to worry about. The hurricane come toward the island sometime, but the Lord always make them go away. You have nothing to worry about, no problem." 9 days later, Hurricane Hugo hits the Virgin Islands, takes the tower of the radio station down, and we basically have to rebuild everything. In the process of that rebuilding, I'd been involved in a business venture and lost my life savings, and I ended up with nothing. And I had a sister that lived here in Knoxville, and so I moved back to Knoxville into one room upstairs in her house, and I had a young son. He was one, I guess, and man, I lost everything. I didn't have a job. I didn't have any connections. I spent my days riding the bus looking for work. What I did have, though, was hope. I believed that it was possible to make something of my life. That was something that my parents gave me, this belief that if you have faith, stuff could happen. And so I happened upon a radio station. They were having a holiday crisis. Somebody wanted to be off. There weren't enough people to cover the shifts. And I say to the general manager and the owner at the time, "Why don't you use me as caulk?" Caulk? Yeah, you plug a hole with caulk. Just use me. I've done everything in a radio station you can imagine, from taking out the trash to managing. They say, "Well, you didn't say anything about money." I said, "Well, I really can't say anything about money until I prove my worth, my value." That's how I was raised anyway. And so they hired me on a 90-day temporary basis, $6 an hour, no benefits. And I've been on the air for 30 years since that day, because somebody saw something in me, they invested in me, and they believed something was possible. Well, as fate would have it, I started to run into really interesting people that had that kind of faith, that hope, that pilot light of hope that stays on even if there's no fire on the stove. And some people approached me about doing television, and I didn't want to do television the way that I had seen it done. I just wanted some hope, some light. I wanted to see stories of possibility, but I wanted those stories of possibility to be rooted right here in East Tennessee, the people that make things happen. See, for me, it's the possibility people that move the world forward. They're the ones who imagine what's possible. And when you imagine that something is possible, you do the one thing that all possibility people do: you try. So we started a TV show. And, some people thought, well, it'll be around for a few years. That was 18 years ago. Lucky guy, my very first guest was Pat Summitt. And what I told my guest through the years was, really, we're using you as a spotlight. The real star of the show is possibility. We're taking your story and we're proving that right here in East Tennessee, you could start with nothing and make something out of it. I'll give you an example. Pat Summitt was 22 years old when she became the head coach of the Lady Vols, and they didn't have the program that is world renowned. She made it from scratch, from driving the van to building it into the championship juggernaut that it has been. She was one story. Well, we're about 500 episodes in, and now we're bringing it to you. So what you're gonna see on Anything is Possible is great stories about great people whose lives prove that anything is possible. And why? Number one, I want to give you hope, just like I got hope. But above and beyond that, what I've loved that has happened through the years is people will look at these stories and they'll start to imagine what's possible in their lives. Because we were all created to do something great. And it doesn't have to be big to be great, it just has to be great, right? And what I hope to inspire in you is to find that greatness in yourself, to express it, to make somebody else's life greater. That's what I believe we're here to do. So I think you're gonna laugh, you're gonna cry, you're gonna believe, you're gonna be disturbed in the most positive of ways, and hopefully, after you watch these episodes, you too will believe that anything is possible. And I'll show you when we come back.
Possibility powered by Pilot Flying J, Covenant Health, Home Federal, and the Knoxville News Sentinel. Coming up.
I just never coached a day in my life, and I felt like I needed some time to think about it, but then what an opportunity. I'm just glad that I had the courage. I think you have to have the courage to step out and do things that are out of your comfort level, or maybe people say you're not qualified to do, but you figure out a way to get them done.
Welcome back to Anything is Possible. I'm Hallerin Hilton Hill. Now, let me tell you, you'll see on the screen all the ways you can watch the show. Of course, you can see it right here at this time every week, but we also are on social media. So you'll see us on Twitter, you'll see us on Facebook, you'll see us on YouTube, and right here on the screen somewhere, you'll see how you can find it where you want it. It'll be in the palm of your hand, and I hope you will like it and share it and subscribe so that we can push these stories of hope out to everyone. Now, let me show you. You've heard a little bit of my story, but what I would love to do right now is just show you what it feels like to be in an episode of Anything is Possible, right? So I want to take a look back at some of the great interviews that we've done. Like I said, I was honored to have as a friend and mentor the legendary Pat Summitt, but I met a lot of incredible people from right here in this area who are doing world-class things. Let's take a look back at where we've been. This is Anything is Possible.
When I see you on the floor coaching, for me, and I'm biased, but the most powerful women's basketball program in America. Now let's talk about going to UT and building the program, because when you started out, there was nothing there. You were young. How old were you?
Actually, I was 22 years old. I had 4 seniors that were 21. It was just timing. It was great timing for me.
Why did they believe that a 22-year-old could build a program?
Well, it wasn't like they were going to pay me big bucks.
Right.
Let's face it, Howard. I went there on a graduate assistantship, and I had just graduated from UT Martin. It asked me to come be the assistant to Margaret Hudson, who was the head coach. A couple weeks later, they called back and said that Margaret's going to work on her doctorate, so she's taking a sabbatical, and will you take the head job? And I was scared. I'm just glad that I had the courage. I think you have to have the courage to step out and do things that are out of your comfort level, or maybe people say you're not qualified to do, but you figure out a way to get them done.
So you send the text message, she says, put it away.
I just put it away. And then about that time, we hear the words that I'll never forget, I don't think as long as I live. This is the captain, brace for impact. And, you know, you hear that and
Looks different on paper.
it looks different on paper. You know, it really does. And there's that moment of, you know, being sad. I'm not going to see my children grow up. I'm not going to get to go home to my husband, see my family and friends. And then kind of your brain clicks and it's like, okay, Lord, if this is what you intend for me, then I accept it. I hope you welcome me into heaven.
Come on, Valley.
It is.
It was that cut and dry.
It was that cut and dry.
There was no hyperventilation, no quiver hand.
And you could have heard a pin drop on that plane.
Really?
I've been in noisier libraries.
General Newland yelled from the stands, and I could hear him because I wasn't paying much attention to that, except it was quite clear. Who's number 15? He had a booming voice. Just a lot of people didn't think I could play. I was 150 pounds that day, and anyway, skinny. And he said, who is number 15? Farmer John said, that's Majors from Huntland, General. Well, I didn't have time to be thrilled about it, but when the scrimmage was over, I not only survived, I was still alive. I weighed 144 pounds after the scrimmage. I ran from the stadium drive, and I called collect to my home. And I know my mother and father were very anxious about me and my confidence. I called home and I said, Daddy, my dad answered the phone and I said, Daddy, they missed tackles in college just like they did in high school. I couldn't believe anybody would ever miss me. It was one of the greatest days of my life.
So now, let's look at what's coming ahead. We've just had the greatest time. If you ask our crew, we had the most fabulous time pulling these stories together for you to share them with you. And I think it's probably one of the things I love most about doing this work is I'm kind of, sometimes I just wonder, I have to pinch myself to say, I get to do this for a living. We talked to some of the most incredible people this year. And you know what I'm always surprised at? I'm always surprised about what I'm surprised about. For instance, I don't know if you're like this, but I get intuition. Now, where mine shows up in my body is in the center of my chest. I don't know, for whatever reason, I'll be doing something and then all of a sudden I feel pressure right here and it's like, do this, say this, turn here, go there. So many times I'll have one of those moments, it'll hit me right here, I will pick up on an energy or a vibe and I'll just follow it and I'm surprised at what surprises me. Let me show you. Here are some excerpts from this new season where I caught those moments and was inspired by them. This is Anything is Possible. So your father's alcoholism resulted in abuse against you and your siblings?
My mother mostly, and some of the siblings, yes. And I don't want to say that as a black eye to him, because there was also things that I took away from what he taught me. But when he was under the influence of alcohol in a very horrific way, it ended up always being violence, Hallerin, and that was tough to live through. But these women, no matter what, were the shield. They would stand in front of whatever was coming against you to make sure that you were protected, no matter what they had to do.
You think about all the people that you already have helped, but that you will be able to help as your voice rises.
Yes.
I don't know why this is just, I get these feelings in my chest and I just have to go with them in the moment. You know what keeps popping up for me in the middle of this conversation? I keep seeing you in a refugee camp somewhere in the world. And you know what keeps coming up for me? I mean, it's like, and I may be totally wrong, I keep hearing music. Did you sing when you were in refugee camp?
I sing, and when I was hiding, I'm glad you asked this question, singing and dancing. These are the things I like.
That's what,
Yeah.
I'm sitting here and
Yeah.
I could see you
Yeah.
somewhere singing in the middle of your pain.
You
What
want
were
me
you
to
singing?
sing?
Yes.
Ni wewe mujenga wanje Yesu, wandindiyo uzima nza kusingiza. This is one of my favorite songs. So you are my master, Jesus. I will praise you day in and day out. You saved my life. That was one of the songs I sang.
Wow.
Yeah. And even if I didn't have to sing loud, so people cannot hear my voice, but I was singing in my heart and then dancing.
I could see it.
Yeah.
I literally could see that just then.
Yeah.
Did you? Yeah. That's why I love this, and that's why I know if you not spend time with us, but invest time with us, you will be inspired, and I know you're going to love this new season. So coming up, I'm going to give you a sneak peek of our very first guest this season. Can you guess who it is? Well, he lives in public housing. This is the first time he's had a job like this, and he rides horses. Do you know who it is? You'll find out when we come back. Welcome back to Anything is Possible. I'm Hallerin Hilton Hill, hopefully soon to be your new best friend. These are great stories about great people whose lives prove that anything is possible. And the proof is in the pudding, and I want you to enjoy the pudding, and then I want you to go make pudding. I want you to prove out the possibility of your life. And I want to ask you to do something unique. I don't know that I've ever seen anybody ask this on camera of an audience. I want you to journal. Bring your journal to each episode, whether you're watching on your phone or watching on television or watching on your iPad. Have your journal nearby because you're going to hear some gems. You will learn a lot of wisdom about life. You'll learn wisdom about what makes things possible. And you'll start to see some common threads. The first thing you have to do is you have to believe. When you believe, it means to feel sure of. You have to believe. You have to have hope. Hope is desire accompanied by confident expectation. You'll see that on display. And then you have to trust. Like I have this phrase or this acronym, it's called GDT. Go, do, and trust. Go where you feel like you should be going, do what you feel like you should be doing, and trust that it's going to work out. Trust is firm belief in the truth, strength, ability, and reliability of something or someone. I know that I trust God, and if you have that kind of trust, it does move you forward. So bring a journal and grab these gems. I'll be doing it with you this season. Now let me tell you who's coming up first. Governor Bill Lee. Now I don't know if you paid attention to that gubernatorial campaign, but there were a lot of candidates and there was a lot of money spent and lots of sharp elbows. Nobody saw him coming. And it was really interesting the approach that he took. He was just kind of like, this is who I am. I'd love to be your governor. And he didn't play the sharp elbows game this time around. And he was not the odds-on favorite at first. And then something happened. I don't know what it was, but something happened and there was just a shift. I remember the polling changed. People were throwing all kind of money into the race and he just started to rise and rise and rise and he won very convincingly and he is now the governor of the state of Tennessee. But his life has been marked by both triumph and tragedy. And I was really surprised to find out about some brokenness in his own life that became a defining moment for him and maybe for the future of our state. This is Governor Bill Lee.
I have another thought about savoring. You know, I had some horrible moments in my life too, and very tragic and painful moments. And I also have come to believe that if you savor them or embrace them and recognize them for what they are, it allows you to understand the opposite of them. To the depth that a person experiences tragedy or sorrow or grief or whatever the bad experience is, to the degree that they experience that, I believe it's an equal degree they can experience the opposite: joy, appreciation, recognition of all things that are good. So this idea of embracing a moment is important.
Talk about tragedy in your life. You go to school, you step into the family business, you're running the family business, you're going along and then you hit a brick wall or a brick wall hits you. I mean, you're knocked flat on your face. Tell us what happened.
I did, left school, got a job, went to family business, back on the farm, beautiful wife, beautiful kids, beautiful life, loved God, was blessed and favored, and had a day when that all changed. My wife was horseback riding with my 4-year-old, and I found my 4-year-old wandering alone, and so then I found my wife, and she lived for a couple days and then passed away. And everything about that idealistic life seemed to have vanished in a moment. And that wasn't true, but at the moment it felt like that. Like, I remember thinking, everything is gone and it'll never come back.
You'll get to find out about all of that, but you'll also meet and see someone who literally believes that anything is possible. And I hope you will be inspired by the governor's story. We'll have part 1 next time on Anything is Possible. I'm Hallerin, and I'm so excited about taking this journey with you. And I hope you will make it an appointment to tune in every week. And if you can't tune in when we're actually on the air, I hope you'll use the technology. You'll follow us on social media. You'll watch on YouTube. You'll put it in the palm of your hand. But I hope it makes its way to your heart. These are great stories about great people whose lives prove that anything is possible. And you are one of those people. And I'm excited to take this journey with you. We'll see you next time on Anything is Possible.